Shalom, brothers and sisters. Shalom. Giving honor and praise unto the Most High, the creator and maker of heaven and earth. Israel. This particular presentation, brothers and sisters, we do not know if it's going to be long. In many cases, I start in saying in part, we do not intend for it to be long. But in this case, I must say, I do not know if it's going to be long. I'm going to ask if I can be heard and if people are in good spirits to please type in the number 4. If I can be heard and people are in good spirit, brothers and sisters, for edification, brothers, is to bring this matter out to the people and be heard, understood, and I do not claim to know everything. Nonetheless, brothers and sisters, we want to get into this for reasonable purposes because of the fact and because, brothers and sisters, there is a teaching that is going on, pervading with some, understood, as some say by some, that Elyon, translated as Most High, is one aspect, and Yah, or Yhwh, said by many as Yahweh, some said as Yahweh, is another. But what we want to point out, while some people speak upon a matter of a council or quote unquote divine council, as some call it, we want to point out that there's only one who created the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that in them is. I have a book called The Near East in Text and Pictures, edited by Pritchard. And in it, it speaks about Ma'at. It speaks about the records of the Sumerians, the Gilgamesh epic in the Enuma Elish. It speaks about the matter of Enlil of Babylon. It speaks about Geb or Jeb of Egypt. But brothers and sisters, there are certain things in the scriptures that lets it be known in the Tanakh, the said Old Testament, that can only be by one Most High, only one Creator. And brothers and sisters, in doing this kind of matter, and in doing this situation and presentation, we hope and pray that people are well and will be better. Throughout this presentation, due to me speaking, I will be drinking ever so often. What I am drinking is sugar-free, family, for the most part. I'm going to just say that. All right. Because every so often I speak upon how my lady Saraz put me onto a better diet, which she has. I'm going to say Shalom, Mishpachah, Shalom, Sarai Michaela, my lady from the house of Judah. And brothers and sisters, what we want to, in due respect, get into, and in due respect, what we want to talk about, if we will, for edification purposes, brothers and sisters, is the fact that, as pointed out, there's only one who created the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that in them is. No one else can claim that particular matter. So we ask you all to subscribe to the channel. We ask you all to comment. And if you care to like, then do so. Let us pull this up. And this is on 2 different channels. This is on Mora Yeshaya Torah Lessons and Mora Yeshaya Hebrew Lessons. Or whichever one that you happen to see it now or see it later, we ask you all to subscribe to each and only those channels for the moment. Not saying you shouldn't subscribe to other channels of other people, but while watching, we ask you all to subscribe to these particular channels on either one that you're watching. So let us pull this PowerPoint up for edification purposes. We want to go to the slideshow and start, say, from the beginning in this particular case. All right. Now, I'm going to, because I've been advised to, keep your picture up so people can see you. They feel more comfortable when they see who's talking to them. Okay, no problem. So normally I'll take my picture down, but in this case, I will keep it up. And when there's people telling you this and they don't know each other, it's not a conspiracy, quote unquote, against you. They just think and understand certain things. And when you present something to people, you got to make yourself for the people. Deuteronomy chapter 32, 32. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verses 8 through 9, an explanation. Giving honor to the creator of heaven and earth. This presentation is due to the fact that some say that Elyon and YHWH are two different entities. Due to such a statement is this presented, we at Day and Night Publications ask you to get your pens, pads, and paper. Once stated, read it in Hebrew. See, I had this discussion recently with somebody who told me to read it in Hebrew. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do as was suggested and read it in the Hebrew. All right, just want to say ask as opposed to the word as there. And we're going to go back to the slideshow part in that typo in that particular case. And let us get into this for reasonable purposes. Shalom, Brother Jared. Shalom, my lady, Sarah Michaela. Shalom, truth be told. How's everybody doing? All right, let's get into this. Consider it done, because we was told, read it in Hebrew. Look it up in the Hebrew. We did that. Let's go in. Get your pens, your pads, your papers, and let's expound upon this, if you will. Get the information out. Now, let's look at this word right here. This is the word we're going to use, brothers and sisters, the laser pointer. This is the word nakal. The word nakal means to inherit or to take possession. Then we have the word nakala, which means inheritance or portion. So let us remember, brothers and sisters, this particular word, and I'll type it inside of the chat. The word nakal, and its meaning is to take possession. All right. Now, let's continue on. Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 18. In those days, the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel, and they shall be, and they shall come together out of the land of the north to the land that I have given for an inheritance unto your fathers. So, brothers and sisters, the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel. When you go, brothers and sisters, in your own time, in the book of Ezekiel, it says that Ezekiel is to take two sticks and write upon it Ephraim and Judah. Ephraim representing the northern kingdom and Judah representing a kingdom. And these two sticks shall be one stick in your hand. Why do I point that out briefly? Because if Israel and Judah would have walked together and become one kingdom, no disrespect to anybody, the 12-tribe chart that is in circulation in many cases doesn't hold much status. Because the intention for the nation of Israel is to be one. So if Israel is to be one, then how can you identify an Israelite based on Genesis 49 and based upon Deuteronomy 33 by looking at the lands of the captivity? That's something out for reference purposes. Now, getting back into of what we're talking about, it is in the Hebrew here. But Yamim Hahema, in those days, the word Yamim meaning days. And we're going to, brothers and sisters, all right, take with the pen, we're going to underline certain things for edification purposes. Yamim means days. Yelku Beit Yahuda al Beit Yisrael, Wayaba'u Yakdal. Yakdal meaning together. Me'eretz Zaphon, from the land of the north. al ha'eretz, asho hin kalti et aboteken. Let's look at this word here, right? We're going to now focus in this particular matter. Hopefully everybody is here and in good spirits, right? And let's look at this for edification purposes, for a reason. We want to highlight this word here, hin kalti. Now, brothers and sisters, for those who've been following on these channels and who all got the book Hebrew is Easy, Volume 1, you will already identify that there are certain letters here, the Nun, the Ket, and the Lamed. Now, let's go back to the slide where we was at. We see here again the Nun, the Ket, and the Lamed. So now, when we read this word right here, hin kalti, and I'm going to type it into the chat, brothers and sisters, hin kalti. Hin kalti means what? I have given for an inheritance. Now, let's look at this, brothers and sisters. All right? Laser pointer, follow along, family. This, remember, Hebrew goes from right to left. This T that you see, that the tau with the yo next to it, identifies that it is a past tense verb. And in the pronoun of it, it is the I, first person. See, when somebody is saying to you, read it in the Hebrew, but they're not going into the verbs, the prefixes, the suffixes, then what are you doing? See, you're then, no disrespect intended, have to go to an Amazon book, and I got books on Amazon, so I'm not snapping on that. You're going to have to be compelled to go to an Amazon book source. In that particular case, look up something in that particular case, and then just give a whole bunch of English, while saying that's why it should be looked upon in the Hebrew. So if that's your stance, and it's not a bad stance, then that's what we're going to do, because we were asked to read it in the Hebrew. I'm talking about the situation of saying the Hebrew in context. If you're going over Hebrew, brothers and sisters, and you're not identifying while being as concrete and as diligent as possible, and if you're not going over the matter of prefixes, suffixes, and verbs, what is a verb? Anybody in the chat who cares to type it in? What is a verb is my question to you, brothers and sisters. Because we know, okay, a noun is a thing, place, or person. So if a noun is a thing or place or a person, we can understand that a verb is an action word. While that being the case, let us remember that for edification purposes. Next part. Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 28. And I commanded you at that time, saying, the Lord your God hath given you this land to possess it. You shall pass over armed before your brethren, the children of Israel, all the men of valor. Now, in the Hebrew, as we were asked to get into, it goes to say, Wa'azal etkem, and I commanded you all. Now, let's stop right there to get to some Hebrew edification, right? Laser pointer. Sorry about that. Wa'azar. That word right there, we want to highlight for edification reasoning. The word zar, for those who know, means command. Now, let us highlight with a different color, all right, the letter aleph here. This letter aleph, brothers and sisters, signifies the ani, or the I, first person. So what can we gather so far? We have here this T part with this verb, about taking possession or giving possession, right? That signifies what? The past tense. This aleph in the beginning, as we see here, signifies the future tense. So the pronouns of that is attached to the verb, be it in the future tense, you will see it as the prefix. In the past tense, you will see it as the suffix. So these are things, again, family, that we want to point out for edification purposes. If I can be heard and if people are in good spirits, please type in the number 4 for communication purposes. All righty, thank you for that. Wa azar et kem, and I commanded et kem, you all. That is another object pronoun because you have the ani, ata, at, who, he, anachnu, atem, heim. Then you have ot, otka, otok, silika. Pardon me. You have ot, otka, otak, oto, ota, otanu, et kem, et ken, otam, and otan. We're going to go over the pronouns maybe in a future lesson. All right. So here we see what? Et, kem, you all, in this particular case. All right. Thank you, Sarah Michaela, my lady. Thank you, Smalls, brother or sister. I don't know your gender, so I'm just saying brother or sister. All right. Et kem, you all. But et hahi, lemor, saying, Yhwh Elohim, the Lord thy God. Natan lakem et ha'aretz hazot, la rishta, ka lutzim, ta'abru lifnei achekem b'nei Yisrael, kal b'nei Chayil. We may have heard in many cases, Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. Well, this is translated as men of valor, but what it's saying here in the Hebrew literally is sons of valor. So there's nothing wrong with that particular translation in that particular case. So let's look, because we know the word son is what? Ben. All right. Now let's look at this, brothers and sisters. But etahi lemor, Yhwh Elohim, the Lord your God, Natan. I want to, with the pen, as we get into this, right? The word Natan means what? Give. So now when we start talking about the matter of inheritance and what is given and who is the giver, that's why we want to get into this. Not just talk about verbs only or just talk about nouns only, but to talk about it in context. First person, second person, third person, prefix, suffix, future, past, and present tense. Let's go on if we will. Isaiah chapter 49, verse 8. Thus saith the Lord, in an acceptable time have I answered thee, and in a day of salvation have I helped thee. And I will preserve thee and give thee for a covenant of the peoples, to raise up the land, to cause to inherit the desolate heritages. So let's look at this, brothers and sisters. It says what? For edification purposes. Right? Laser pointer, if we will. Ko amar Yhwh. Thus the Most High has said. But eight ratzon anitika. Ubyom Yeshua azartika. Wa ezarka. Wa etenka librit am. Lahaquim eretz lahankil nakalot shememot. Now, why do we go over this? And how does this connect, brothers and sisters, to this word nakal? We're going to see how it does. Remember that word nakal, right? And now let us look and highlight this particular portion right here. We want to do this in the yellow. Sorry about that. Right? Lahan kil. This lamed in the beginning signifies something. Hankil. For those able to follow along in the Hebrew, I'm going to take the pen, if we will, Hey Noon Het Yod Lamed Han Kil. You still got your Noon and your Ket and your Lamed. Noon Ket and Lamed spells what? Nakal. Lahan Kil. Then when we read right here, to cause to inherit. So why do we want to go over that? Because the teaching or the understanding of saying that Elyon is one entity, Yhwh is another entity, and El is another entity, is saying that Elyon gave Yhwh something. That Yahweh or Yhwh, or said by some as Yahuwah, is not Elyon the Most High. So this is why this lesson is being presented. So now that we can see that the Most High, as we see here in name Yhwh, is saying that he, in acceptable time, answered Israel, and the day of salvation helped Israel, and preserved Israel, and give Israel for a covenant of the people to raise the land to cause to inherit. So we see the role that Yhwh is doing with his people, the house of Israel. So how can we think of anyone else, and where does anyone else fit in this particular matter? We're going to let the book speak. We want to go over some Hebrew because we were asked, who are quote unquote monotheistic, as we know ourselves to be. The Israelite culture is such. We've gone over what Deuteronomy chapter 3 says, the Lord your God have given. Natan means to give. Nakala means inheritance. So we see this Noon, this Ket, and Lamed following in a certain pattern for a reason. Let's go on to the next part. Get the information out. The word parad, all right, means to divide, if we will. Divide. Parad in Hebrew is the root of it. Now, there's a reason why we're going over this in this particular manner. I appreciate the people who have joined on and so forth. Let's get into this. Genesis chapter 10, verse 5. It goes on to say, of these were the owls of the nations divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, after their families in their nations. The Hebrew says this, and we want to show this, brothers and sisters, with the laser pointer, right? Me ele nif redu iye hagoyim wa arazotam ish liolshono namishpakotam bagoyehen. So we've been talking about this word mishpaka ever so often, right? So you have mishpaka or mishpakot in this case. Now, with this right here, let's get into some Hebrew edification, right? We want to show this. That vowel underneath the tau that I just highlighted, if you will, brothers and sisters, is called Iqwamat. Without that tau, you just have the word am. This am in this case serves as, or the memso feet, serves, brothers and sisters, as, believe it or not, a suffix. Mishpaka, family. Mishpakot, families, plural. Mishpakotam, their families. So this is what we want to point out, brothers and sisters, for this. This lamed in the beginning of the word mishpaka serves for where you see the word after or for or to. After their families, to their families, for their families. All right? And we already gone over mishpaka several times. This lamed that we see here also serves as a prefix. This right here, bet right here, shown in the blue, serves as a prefix. This hey serves as a prefix. This noon serves as a prefix. You see how we get down in the language. This mem serves as a prefix. So when you're asking, oh, you got to get to the Hebrew, you ask something, I hope it's ready, and it's not to sound disrespectful or anything of that sort. Let's look at this, brothers and sisters, for reasonable purposes. All right? Now let's go into this. We want to use the highlighter, right? Nifredu. Let's read the English again. Of these were the Isles of the nations divided. Now let's look. Parad, to divide. That is the root of that verb, right? Now when we look at nifredu or nipredu, you still got the pay, the resh, and the dalit. Over here, we have our pay, our resh, and our dalit. Now, looking upon this particular case, brothers and sisters, this parad is inside the qual stem, and we're going to sit there and put that in. Qual stem, all right? This is not to play salesman, but the Hebrews Easy Volume 3 gets into that if you care to get it, all right? Now, let's look. Qual stem, parad. Then we see nifredu. Let us circle that last part for reasonable purposes with the red, if we will, because this u sound serves as a suffix. So if you drop off this prefix, and if you drop off this suffix, you got what? It's root, parad. Again, parad means to divide. See, these books that teach you that Yod Hey Waw Hey is not Elyon, don't go into the Hebrew like this. Nor do they ever, correct me if I'm wrong, explain that El was known before the sons of Noah. The sons of Noah were after Mahalalel. Mahalel El at the end of Mahalel means God. Mahalalel means praising God. Mahalel, the mem serves as a prefix. Then you got, drop in if you did that prefix off, Hallel. This is where you get the famous term hallelujah. We know what? Praise Yah. Do you see, brothers and sisters, why we call it Hebrew is easy? So this is what we want to point out for that. Now, why does this become important? Because we went over the word nakal, we went over the word parad, and all of this becomes important, you'll see, toward the later part of this lesson. Next part, Genesis chapter 10, 32. These are the families of the sons of Noah after their generations, in their nations, and of these were the nations divided in the earth after the flood. So let's go over this in the Hebrew with the laser pointer. Ele mishpakot. We got our friend mishpakah, that word family again. B'nai Noach lotol dotam b'goyehem. Ume ele nifredu. Hagoyim ba'aret akar hamabul. Real quick. The word mabul, all right, means flood. All right? So let's point that out. The word mabul means flood. So now let's highlight certain things in this for edification. We asked in the beginning for people to get their pens and their paper for a reason. Let's look at this, right? Highlighter. No, we're not using red for the highlighter. It won't show the best. Now let's look. Mishpakot. Families of B'nai Noach, the sons of Noah. Lodoro Totam. Pardon me, Lotol Dotam. There's no ration there. I stand corrected. Lotol Dotam. Now, we want to color code this for a reason, right? And we're going to use this sound, Lotol Dotam. When you hear that mem, M sound at the end, that serves as a suffix. All right. Now, here we have, brothers and sisters, we want to show this. Underline Tolad. The word Tolad means in part to beget. I want to type that in if we will. Tolad in part. No, stop trying to spell check me, computer. I meant Tolad, not told. Means in part to beget. And we know this person begot this and this person begot that, right? All right. So if I can be heard and people in good spirits, please type in the number 4. If I can be heard and people in good spirits, peace type in the number 4. Thank you. So let's look. Tolad comes from the root word. All right. We want to just go over this real quick. Let's look at this real quick, so we can get some understanding for edification purposes, if we will. Right? Tolad. Root being Yalad. Now, why, brothers and sisters, do we go into this particular matter? The root being Yalad. The word Yaled means child. Do we see how that works for edification purposes? Yalad, to beget. Yeled, child. Yalda, female child. Then we have, brothers and sisters, the matter of Tolad, about begetting. That tau as a prefix in this case. See, when people tell people, oh, you should get into the Hebrew, and this is why I give respect to my Hebrew teachers. You understand? Because there is no wisdom, no understanding against the Most High. So if you believe that there's another entity that is part of the council of Yah, when the only time, correct me if I'm wrong, when it speaks about council, is in Jeremiah 23. It says, if they had stood in my counsel, then it will cause my people to walk in my commandments. The word counsel in Jeremiah 23 uses the word sold. Sold means secret. So if you stood in my secret, the secret of the Most High is to obey Yah. It's not that deep. His counsel, his secret is about keeping the Lord's statutes, commandments. That is the epitome of teaching. Verbs and nouns and prefixes and suffixes and past, future, tense, and what is the passive and active cannot touch obedience to the Most High God. Nonetheless, when the Most High spoke to his prophets, he did speak in a particular language, saying, Shema b'kwo hear my voice. So with that being the case, let us get into this particular matter. Tolad, root meaning Yalad, right? But goyehem, this hem serves as a suffix. U me ele and u me from ele these. The word ele, we want to type this in, brothers and sisters. Feel free to leave comments and questions if you care to. Ele means these. Now, it doesn't matter if it's masculine or feminine. All right, ele or elu can mean these. It doesn't matter in that case, masculine or feminine. All right. So let's get this on for edification purposes. U me ele nif redu. Here we go. We have again our suffix here, and we have our noon here, which is my favorite letter for whatever reason. Our prefix, and then we have parad. So here we have parad, and here we have parad. Why do we go over that in that particular case and using the scriptures as a reference? Brothers and sisters, is this. Hebrew has structure. So when the people have structure, who are the Hebrew people? And if you're saying go, as we were told, as quote, the monotheistic Israelites, we're going to do it when we get the time to do so. And I say this in no disrespect. Sidebar. When conversing, have some understanding. Men and women sometimes get into arguments because they don't take that 5 or 10 minutes to just, let me think this through. Let me not jump the gun. Sit back. The book in the scriptures, I forgot which one. I think it's in Isaiah. It says, in quietness and stillness, you will find your God. Moses had to take time to himself. Elijah had to take time to himself. David, in his warrior spirit, he took time to himself to go among the Philistines. There's nothing wrong with quote unquote me time. So, brothers and sisters, let us look at this. This noon signifies that this word parad, which is the qual stem, this noon makes this qual stem word a nifal stem. Now, brothers and sisters, nifal, and this is again not to play salesman on the Shabbat, will be discussed in Hebrew is Easy Volume 7. All right, a book Elohim willing to come out in the future this year. All right. Nifredu Hagoyim. We heard of the word goy, Gentile. Well, goyim is the plural of that word. All right. So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. Adoniah Kanan Yehuda wrote, Hakodesh Baruchu, blessed be he, the Holy One. Yit Barak Yod Wahe Zebaot. May the Most High he be blessed. Shabbat Shalom. Sabbath of peace. Yafeh Mishpachah, beautiful family. Kishem Yehovah Ekra, because in the name of Yehovah will I call. Correct me if my Hebrew was wrong, brother. All right. So we just want to point this out for edification purposes. All right. Ba'aretz, this bet serves as a prefix. Aretz meaning earth or land. Akar meaning after. This is where you get the word akare. Akarim. Me'ukar meaning late. I remember people used to say that about going to work. Don't be me'ukar. Don't be me'ukar. Don't be late. I remember hearing people saying that about their jobs or whatever. So just pointing that out for reference purposes. All right. Next slide. Proverbs 18:18. Shabbat Shalom at Mora Yeshai. Shabbat Shalom, Adonia Kanan. When I was saying that Aki about what you typed in before that with the Hebrew, was my Hebrew according to what you was conveying? Let me know, brother. Thank you. It says this. The lot causes strife to cease, and parteth asunder the contentious. What can we gather from that, even outside of Hebrew? The lot, meaning a portion, that which is designated, causes strife to cease. Do you know, sidebar, that in many times when there's a death in a family, there's strife because the lot or the portion wasn't already delegated before the death, so people don't know who gets what, and now they're fighting? This is wisdom we want to point out along with the Hebrew. The lot, meaning the portion, that which is designated, causes strife to cease. That's why many times people write out a will or a will and testament. I leave this to this, and I leave this to that. I leave this to this person, and so forth. Now, getting back into this, and part of asunder the contentious. That's mine. That was my house. That was my fortune. That was for me, and so forth and so on. This is why we have to be more family orientated. Do not reject your elders. You know the word elder in Hebrew is zakwain, and the Hebrew word for beard is zakwan. Do you know when they sit there and tell sisters, and this is not to be gender biased or anything of that sort. You know when they sit there and tell sisters, oh, you should do certain things with your hair, make it look, they talking about putting a perm in essentially, and so forth and so on. Well, what they tell us as males is, clean it up a little, take all that hair off your face, and things of that kind of nature. Having a beard is not dirty, unless you're just a dirty person. Has nothing to do, say, with the beard. In jail, brothers sometimes are made to have to do it. Certain jobs ask you to sit there and do that, but it's a part of puberty. Essentially, to require a male to cut his beard for a job or so is almost as asking a female to cut off her breast for a job. As her breast is part of a normal thing for a female going through puberty, so is facial hair for a male going through puberty. That's how we could tell who was part of the universe, Olam, the universe, and who is not. Why would you want somebody to sit there and change what is naturally theirs? But that's a whole other subject. Brothers and sisters, getting back into this particular case, all right? Let's look. Highlighter. Our friend the highlighter. Let's use yellow. This word here. Yafrid. Right? Now, this is the Yhwh stem. The Yhwh stem, brothers and sisters, is the fifth stem of the seven stems. My mother's favorite stem was the seventh stem, the Hipa'el. My favorite stem is the qual stem because it's pretty simplistic. Now, let's look at this, brothers and sisters. The brother said that correct on spot Moray. I'm from Sha'arei Shemayim. I have a lot from you also. Please keep doing this great and needed work. May the Eternal continue to multiply and bless you and your household. Nah, yeah. Family, when the brother say a nah, yeah, that nah means please. Not nah as in no. Please in Hebrew is nah. Just as simple as that. Nah means please. So we learned that word already. All right. Sha'arei Shemayim. Much respect. Sidebar. 2. Rosh Nasikes Kriyahu. Much respect to Iman Zarita. I've known them for a good, well, I'm in my 40s since my teens. Just saying it like that. So it's been a good over 20 years. I've known them. And I'm going to take the time out now to give them a shout out. Rosh Nasikes Kriyahu. Spoke with him yesterday, actually. And his Iman, his Isha Zari, sorry. His Isha Iman Zarita, Iman to me. All right. So it's going to let it be known for reference purposes. But now, getting back, if we will, into this. Yafrid, part of asunder or divide. This, brothers and sisters, word is important. Do we see how Hebrew works? With our pen here, we have still the word, the pei, the resh, and the dalet. This yod serves as an interjection, and this yod in the beginning, remember Hebrews right to left, serves as a prefix. Let's go on to the next slide. 2 Kings 2, verse 11. And it came to pass as they still went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire, which parted them both asunder. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. Let's look in the Hebrew and let's use our laser pointer and move on with the time allotted. Brothers and sisters. All right. Laser pointer. Wahi, Hema, Holkim, Halok, Wadaber, Wahine Rekeb Esh, Wasuse Esh, Wayaf Redu, Bain Shenehem, Waya'al Eliyahu, Bas Ara Hashemayim. Let's look at that. What word do we want to highlight in here, brothers and sisters, is this word here. Wayafridu, while we're being told, look into the Hebrew. So let's do that, right? And we want to, brothers and sisters, with this time allotted, let's look at this for edification purposes in as much real time as possible. And I thank you all for taking out the time to even be on this channel and this platform, brother. All right. Let's look at this in much real time as possible. That didn't work. Think I know what I got to do. Bear with me, family. Sorry about that. Let's go back to the slideshow from current slide. We are going to brothers and sisters, take this opportunity, highlighter, looking upon it like that, erase it. Thank you for the time. There's a reason why I want to go through this in this particular matter, if we will, family. Thank you for Wayafridu. Alrighty, we're not going to spend but so much time upon it, but we do want to emphasize a point for a reason. Now let's look for edification purposes. That word, wayaf ridu. Now, looking upon it like this, right? And you see this is already what? Highlighted. Wow. Prefix. Yafridu. Yafrid, we already went over. Yafridu. That u is part of the suffix. Now, when it talks about the horses, that's the they. That's why it says in that case, while they went, Wahine rekeb ish, and behold, a chariot of fire, wasuse, and horses of fire. So this horses is plural. So it's part of me. The do sound at the end shows it to be its pluralization. That's what I want to point out in that case. All right. So let's go back to the slideshow from the current slide, right, and look upon it in that particular case, if we will. Let's look at the pen. We still got this word parad. The word parad again means what, as we pointed out? Divide. This becomes very important. Why do we want to go over its prefixes, its suffixes, its root, and everything of that sort? Is what we're going to get into when we get to Deuteronomy. Wayafridu. We pointed that out already. Now, let's look up this word here, nazab. To set up or to stand up. Nazab. That word right there. If I can be heard and if people are in good spirits, please type in the number 4. If I can be heard and people in good spirits, please type in the number 4. Nazab. To set up, to stand up. Joshua chapter 6, verse 26, to let the book speak with the time allotted. Thank you for such. Right? We want to use the laser pointer. And Joshua charged the people with an oath at that time, saying, Cursed be the man before Yah, that riseth up and buildeth the city, even Jericho. With the loss of his firstborn shall he lay the foundation thereof, and with the loss of his youngest son shall he set up the gates of it. So Jericho was, in archaeology, for those who are into it, one of the oldest cities in the world, they say. Yereko means of the moon. Yareach means moon. The city of Jericho was never to be built after the children of Israel passed over. The first fruit you give to the Most High. So the first city that Israel got into after crossing the Jordan, they were not supposed to build that up. That's to be remain as is. Similar like the altar, where you don't put no tool to it to make it hewn because you desecrated it. Just leave it as is in that case. Now in the Hebrew, we see Wayashba Yahoshua Ba'etahi Lemor Arul Ha'ish, cursed be the man, Lifnei Yod Wahe, before the Most High. Asher Yakum Azo Et Yereko. We just talked about Yereko or Jericho. Bib Koro Yasdena Uro Yazib de la Teha. The camp Sha'are Shemayim. Sha'are means gates of. Shemayim means heaven. Now, in here we see the word gates, right? But let's look. The Hebrew here, we want to look and say if the highlighter, right? De la Teha. It's doors or it's gates. The word delet, brothers and sisters, means door. All right. So in light of that, let's see this here. Let's look at the pen. And let us circle this part right here. Ha. Things you go into are represented in Hebraic culture in a feminine. Hence you see the letter hey there being a feminine letter because there's 2 feminine letters in Hebrew. One being the letter hey, the 5th letter, and one being the letter tau, the 22nd letter. All right. This is why we ask you to get your pens and your pads and your paper and take notes. All right. So to the people who Eliyahu, Shabbat Shalom, Shalom More Yeshaya, Shalom Eliyahu. Beit Shema Kahal. Shabbat Shalom to you as well. Thank you for joining on. All right. And thank you, Sarah Michaela, my lady, for typing in 4 so I can know I could be heard and people in good spirits. So let's look at this, brothers and sisters, for the Hebrew edification, if we will. Right? Delateha. Delet means door. Ha at the end signifies its gates or her gates or its doors or her doors. All right? Wayashba Yahushua. And Joshua charged the people with an oath. Shabbat means oath, like Be'er Shabbat means the will of oath. Bat Shabbat. Bat means daughter, Shabbat means oath. So Bat Shabbat or Bat Sheba means what? Daughter of the oath. So these are things we want to point out for reference purposes, right? Wayashba Yahushua, Joshua, Yahushua meaning the Most High salvation. Joshua is the transliteration. The Most High is salvation is the translation of that name. But Etahi, in that time, they more are saying, Arur Ha'ish, cursed be the man. Now, what do we want to point out with this highlighted part here? Right? Or should we just pin it in this case? Arur, cursed be. That is what you call in English the past participle for those into the linguistics matter. It comes from its root word arer. The word arer in Hebrew means to curse. You might see, brothers and sisters, and we want to point this out for reference purposes, if we will, right? Let's look at this for reference purposes, if we will, family. Right? And in real time as much as possible. So we can get while people say, go to the Hebrew. Let's do that. That's what you asked for. And this is not to be funny or nothing like that. Look at this word right here, right? Copy. Now let's go over here with real time, if we will. If you're going to present something, give people worth something their time. If they're using their internet and everything of that sort to hear you, don't waste his or her time. Give them something worth their time. If they respect you enough to hear you, give them something. Just don't, think that their time don't mean nothing. Respect people for their time. That's just a nice thing to do. All right. So I hope this is for edification purposes and so on. So let's look. Arur, right? This word, arur, is an iron verb. What does iron verb stand for? All right. I am Elder Asaya Demisi. All right. Shalom, Elder. Let's look at this right here. Oh, Shalom, Elder Asaya. Yes. Yeah, we're going to talk about that thing. I think you know where we're going with this. How you doing? The word arul is an iron verb. When a verb has the second and third letters as the same letter, it is such. Now, when it says as such, it's an iron verb. So now, arur comes from the word arer. Arer, brothers and sisters, means to curse. So you see that word arur quite often, sadly, in Deuteronomy 28. All right, now, let's look at this in this particular case. Right? And we're going to go back to the beginning, well, to this part from current slide. Right? What word do we want to also point out, if we will, family, is this. Laser pointer. Yazib. Yazib. Now, let's look at this word here. Nazab means to set up. Let's underline, or pardon me, highlight, color coded, if we will. Right? Highlighter. Yazib. Nazab means to set up, right? And we see set up here. Brothers and sisters, set up. Now, let us erase, because I want to go into this as much as possible in detail with the people's timing. Thank you again for listening in. All right. Now that we've looked up that word in that case, let us do this to show why we are going over this as meticulous as possible with the time allotted. This word Yazib, let's copy and go to this part here. Right? Thank you again, family. This word Yazib comes from the word Azab. Now, can we sit there, brothers and sisters, and notice something real quick while we're going over grammar and roots and things of that nature in the Hebrew language, right? Let's look. We see here the word Nazab as pointed out. So let's go back to the Most High for the time in this case, right? Nazab, we already pointed out, means to set up or stand up. So now when we read in Joshua, we see this word here, Yazib. We see the English, he set up. Shall he set up? Brothers and sisters, let's now show with the highlighter, Yazib, coming from the word Nazab. How does that happen? The noon in Nazab drops when you conjugate it in its future tense. It's referred to as a pay noon verb. See, when you're asking people to get into the Hebrew, let's get into it. With the time allotted. The day that we are in observance of Sabbath, Shabbat, it's not an English word. Shabbat is a Hebrew word. And I'm not the best Sabbath keeper. I'm not the best person on this earth. My lady and my sisters, and I go so far as to say, as my daughter would tell you, I'm not perfect. What I am going to say, brothers and sisters, while it's not about self, when you have applied yourself, giving thanks to the Most High, to have sat under teachers and not belligerent or arrogant to sit there and say, I ain't got no teacher, you's a liar. Even if no human taught you, it's the Most High who guided you to see something. It doesn't take nothing away from you as a moray to acknowledge to the people who proceeded before you. Because remember, I got family relatives like my sister's Ima, who just this week passed away. I'm assuming in less than 100 years, everybody at the sound of his voice is going to be where that lady is at. And I don't say that to sound condescending or sad. I'm saying that to say that while we are on this earth, let us gain as much as we can when we can. And just like we went over the channel Mordeh Yeshaya Torah lessons last night, Joseph, who lived to be 110, right? It says he spoke kindly to them and comforted them. Just being that comforting word, believe it or not, and it's not to get sidetracked. When my lady says, sweetheart, you got this, that means more than somebody up there clapping hands and everything after the fact. It's before a mission is done with the power of a woman to say, sweetheart, you got this. You can do it. I'm there for you. As she's here in due respect, moderating and so on. So you respect those who respect you. You understand? So in light of that, brothers and sisters, let's look at this. Yazib, from the word Nazab. Nazab, you already went over, means to set up or to set up or stand up. All right? Yazib. It's the future tense. Let us circle something with the pen for edification purposes. This yod that's being circled inside of that, if we will, brothers and sisters, shows it to be a prefix. All right? Now, let me go back to the slideshow. That yod there shows it to be a prefix. The prefix of that shows it to be the third person masculine singular. That's why Joshua chapter 6:26 has the word he there. That yod signifies that in that case in the future tense. See how we understand prefixes, future tense, suffixes, past tense, verbs, what form of the verb it is, plural or singular, nouns, adjectives, as it's called in Hebrew, dikuduk, which means grammar. Let's go on to this part here. Lamentations 3:12 to let the book speak. He had bent his bow and set me as a mark for the arrow. Darakto, waya zebeni, ka matara lahates. So let's learn this, brothers and sisters. All right. highlighter, Kates. Let's get some vocabulary, if we will, some nouns maybe, right? The word Kates means arrow, right? Quashto, his bow. The word quashto we see right here. What kills can we gather, brothers and sisters? The word quashet means bow. You see that, correct me if I'm wrong, in the book of Genesis, when it said the Most High set his bow in the heavens. Quashet means bow. All right. Darak, quashto. He have bent his bow. The word darak means to bend. It comes from the word noun way, derek, means direction or path or way. Darako, his way. So derek would be the noun, and darak, well, brothers and sisters, is the verb. And in a verb, it means to bend or to make one be in a pathway. That's how that goes in that case, right? And set me as the mark. Wayat zebeni. So here is the word we want to, in this case now, focus on, right? Let's look. Let's go here real quick, if we will, and show this in as much real time as possible, right? We're going to copy this. We're going to go here again for the time, because you can be anywhere, but you all chose to be here at this moment, or you chose to do it later. Either or, much respect. All right, let's go back here, if we will. Copy. Go here. We're going to go back up here. Look at the layout. Make this table and contents, if we will. No, I don't need design. Thank you. Erase that. Thank you again for bearing with me with the time allotted. Now, Wayat Zebeni. Looking upon it like that, we're going to enlarge this. Now, why are we doing that, brothers and sisters? And what, didn't mean to do it like that. Does that mean? Wayat Zebeni. Now, this, brothers and sisters, let's go back over here and show it as meticulous as possible, right? From current slide. It ultimately comes from the root word nazab, right? And we want to show with the laser pointer, if we will, right? This wow you see in the beginning, why? Because the yod is next to it. That's a prefix. It means and. Yatzib. We went over the word, brothers and sisters, if we will, Yazib over here. The yod, the zade, the yod, the bet. Yatzib. Let's see if we see that in this word. The yod, the zade, the yod, the bet. So if that is that case, we know, brothers and sisters, I'm going to circle with this pen here. What is its suffix? The ni. This is when some try to say, and it's not to be disrespectful when I say some try to say, that Hebrew borrowed from Aramaic. It's not even a problem if it did in this case. That this ni signifies the me part. Like in Lamentations here, and set me as the mark, right? In this particular case. So let's look. This highlighter, no, we're going to do laser pointer. Ni stands for the me part. All right. That serves again as a suffix. So we still have here the yazib, and we want to highlight that. Yazib. And we see that same word, yazib, vowel and all of that, if we will, right? Right here, yazib. And it comes from the word nazab. It's a pay noon verb. So now when you conjugate this in the future tense as such, the noon drops out. That's why the word yazib comes from nazab, but yazib doesn't have the end sound within it because the noon drops out. This is part of grammar of Hebrew linguistics. All right. So in this case, let's go on. Translations, and then we're going to begin to close out. Thank you again, family, for the time. Translations: Goyim, Gentiles or nations. B'nai Adam, sons of man. Gebulot, borders or colony. Amim, people or nations. Mispar, number. Kelek, differentiated or divided. Chebel, region or band. Why do we want to go over this? How does this relate to what we're talking about, brothers and sisters? Because Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 8 through 9 has all these words that we just went over. The Most High, Yah, Yhwh, is not separated as if Elyon is one entity and Yhwh is another. We were asked to go into the Hebrew and discuss this, so that's what we're doing with the time allotted. All right, let's look. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all the nations of the earth. Now let's look in the Hebrew and see what we gather, brothers and sisters, with the laser pointer. Wahaya, and it shall come to pass. Im shamoa tishma, if you shall diligently hear, if you shall diligently obey, B'kol Yodhewahe Eloheka, with or in the voice of the Lord your God, lishmor, to observe, from the word shamar, to observe, la'asot, to do, et kol mitzvotav, even all of his commandments. Asher anoki mazal kahayom, which I am commanding you today. Untanka, Yodhewahe Eloheka, and the Lord your God, he shall give you, he shall place you, he shall put you. Elyon al kal goye haaretz, above, on top, al kal goye haaretz, upon or concerning, kol, all, each, goye, Gentiles of, nations of haaretz, the earth. Why do we go over it in that particular case, brothers and sisters? Remember we went over the word goyim over here as Gentiles or nations? Well, goye means nations of. And we already expounded upon aretz or eretz, meaning earth to land. Now let's focus on, if we will, thank you for again for the time. I always say that because if people are listening to you, and I notice that after the lives are done, it seems to be more people than it says that are in currently. All right. So you got to give people that respect and respect their time. That's very important. Something they know before, perhaps if they respond. I remember in the 80s, the Israelite community be like, you went to church, but you ain't learned nothing. You spent all your morning Sunday in there, but you walked out not learning anything. And if people want to join on and hear what a brother is saying under Day Night Publications, I would like it to think that you're walking away with something that you didn't have before. And I'm open to constructive criticism. Teach me. Horuni, teach me. Horuni, teach me. Be my mora and be my more. Because I remember when I was staying in the South, in South Carolina, my teacher concerning the animals was a boy that at the time was not even 10 years old. And here I am, 40. So I'm learning from somebody that is 30 years plus younger than myself. He was like, Yeshaya, the goat is not going to bite your finger. Remember, not being funny, I'm from Brooklyn. So I'm like, this goat is just eating out of my hand. How do I know he's not going to bite my finger? Because the goat is not going to bite the hand that feeds him. Only people do that. So looking upon it in this particular case, brothers and sisters, getting back into this, when we see here the word Elyon, and we see here above, the thought that pervades that says Elyon is a proper name. How then do you explain Elyon in this verse? That's not a name. The word Elyon, and we want to sit there and take notes upon this, if we will, brothers and sisters, right? Let's go upon it with the time allotted, and let's get into this, right? We have in this particular manner, right? The word here, Elyon, copy, we're going to, right? And let's see, with this here, layout, we have here the word Elyon. And we want to enlarge this. Excuse me for that. The word Elyon. It's not cooperating with me on that part. All righty. Y'all know what I'll do. You're going to bring the word down and then expound upon it. Elyon. Above. Deuteronomy 28, verse 1. People have stated that Elyon is a proper name. But as we just pointed out, we see here that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all the nations of the earth. So now when we read and have read, brothers and sisters, going back to the slideshow for the moment, all right, and it says here, viewing it with the laser pointer, Untanka. We already know the word Natan means to give. Utanka Yodhe Wahe Eloheka. Yodhe Wahe, said by some, is different than El Elyon, the Most High God, which we're going to show in the scriptures is not the case. You understand? But to the brothers and sisters who say that Elyon is a quote proper name and Yahweh or Yahuwah or Yahweh or Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh is a proper name and are said to be two different entities, how do we get a proper name Elyon in Deuteronomy 28 verse 1 as we just showed? I need that explained. Bring forth, and it's not to sound arrogant, and I'm not the prophet Isaiah. Bring forth your witnesses that they may speak and be justified, and let them hear and speak and say it is truth. That's in Isaiah chapter 43, chapter 44. Bring forth your teachers. All of these people who you get your book from on Amazon, these scholars, let them explain if they're saying Elyon is a proper name. How is Elyon in Deuteronomy 28, verse 1 a proper name? And we showed it already. The word Elyon comes from the Hebrew root word Allah, the verb, which means to go up or to ascend. Get your Hebrew on, family. When you're teaching against the Most High's authority, and is not to play prophet, one will come and check you on that. Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel, Yahweh Eloheinu, the Lord our God, Yahweh Echad, the Lord is one. Even Christian missionaries said they heard it stated in South America, which made a guy named Manasseh ben Israel in 1644 write a book called Hope in Israel, saying that there was indigenous Israelites among the natives in South America. When you read a book called the Pop Pavu, how were people never exposed to the English language, much less the KJV Bible, or talking about Shema Yisrael? How you have a group of people in Gondar, not far from Lalibela and Ethiopia, speaking Amharic, saying they're Beta Yisrael. These people were not speaking English. Why do I point that out? Is because when people say get into the Hebrew of it, and saying at the same token that Elyon is a proper name, please, I'm asking you, brother, sister, elder, please explain how is Elyon a proper name here? in Deuteronomy 28, as we just showed, it's not per se a proper name. And we're going to show you what the book says itself. Next part, 1 Chronicles 7:24. And his daughter was Sheraiah, who built Beth Horon. And it says, the nether and upper, and Uzin Sheraiah. We already going to point this out. Women were building things. Women were builders. But let's go into this, brothers and sisters. Laser pointer, if we will, right? Ubito she'era. Owati ben et bet koron. Hataktit. Wa et ha'elyon. Wa et uzain she'era. Let's highlight this, brothers and sisters, and I thank you all for joining on. This right here distinctly says Elyon. And it's translated here as the upper. What are you talking about? That Elyon is a proper name. It comes from the word Allah in Hebrew, which means to ascend. Shimon. You can take anything. My daughter's name is Shalosha. That means the number 3. Anything can be a name, quote unquote, proper or not. You understand? You got Ariel, Lion of God. You got people, correct me if I'm wrong. King David had a son named Shobab. Shobab in Hebrew means monkey. That was one of King David's sons. So I'm saying that to say this, brothers and sisters. Elyon, said by some, oh, that's a proper name. And supposedly, Elyon gave Yhwh an inheritance. That's why we went over the word inheritance. That's why we went over who gives what. Because we shown in Deuteronomy, the Most High, Yhwh, is the giver. So let's understand, brothers and sisters, that Deuteronomy 28, verse 1, we see here, we're going to highlight this, if we will, the word Elyon. And in this case, it's talking about a position of where people are going to be at. If I can be heard, and if there's any questions, please type in your questions. But if I can be heard, please type in the number 4. Thank you for your consideration and cooperation. If I can be heard, and if you're in good spirits, please type in the number 4. Let's go over this, brothers and sisters. Elyon. Somebody said that's the proper name. And that Elyon gave Yhwh an inheritance. But we see the same word right here, Elyon, and it means above. And brothers and sisters, we know ha is a prefix, meaning the, in many cases when you're dealing with nouns. Ha also can be a question form, but that's not in this case. Then we see here, brothers and sisters, ha Elyon, the upper. So, hold on. Did somebody really not get into the Hebrew before saying, look it up in the Hebrew? It's best if you look it up in the Hebrew. We did. You're not going to sit there and while nobody is perfect, speak against the God of Israel, saying that he has a council and that Israel was given to Yah by Elyon. What are you talking about? That is not confirmed in the scriptures. Psalms chapter 83, verse 19, if we will, brothers and sisters. Sorry about that. That they may know it is thou alone, whose name is the Lord, the Most High over all the earth. Okay, so what can we gather from this? This is Psalms chapter 83, 19. Some people have it in Psalms 83, verse 18. But what it says, brothers and sisters, is with the laser pointer, that they may know it is thou alone. There's no second to compare to Yah, to consult with him. Without beginning, without end. He has neither bodily form nor substance. We can compare naught unto him in his holiness. He was before anything that had been created, even the first, even though his existence had no beginning. So if you understand anything about Hebrew, Whether you understand the name as Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahuwah, Yahweh, the Yod Hey Waw Hey comes from its root, Haya, which means to be or to exist. Haya Yhwh, he who causes to be in existence. He who was, he who will be. How in the world can one who is, in this case, the creator of heaven and earth, in this world, how in the world or in the heavens above, or in the earth, or that which is underneath the earth, the sea and everything else underneath that, be compared to that? When I was with my lady in Costa Rica, you don't want to see the magnification of the Most High's work. Yo, I'm from Brooklyn. Yo, I made it through Flatbush. I've been in fights. All right. Yeah, you from Brooklyn. Ak. You been through fights. Ak. Take this trip to Costa Rica, like I did with my lady, and see if you want to see one of them pumas, the work of the Most High. Because when we went by a certain waterfall, I stopped. No, I'm not going. I'm staying right here. Oh, come on. Now it's fun. I got, regardless of, oh, we put in the funds and we are on vacation. I'm on vacation and got scared to go through the entire rainforest or the forest or so forth and so on. I stopped right there. I'm not going no more. So, brothers and sisters, why do I point that out? You don't want problems, or in the street, as they say, smoke with the one who creates something while you walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I've been over on Cordelia and Nostrand. I've been over on Winthrop. I've been over on Farragut. I went over through Farragut Projects by Hoyt Street. Good. I walked over by Blake Avenue, chilled over by Tilden Projects. Been through the hood through Newark, New Jersey, where it is even rougher than New York for those who do know. But just go on a quote-unquote nature trip and really see what it is and see how tough you are, brother. The Most High's work will make you stop like, let me not go any further. I'm saying that to say this, that they may know it is thou alone. You can't couple the Most High with anyone else, whose name is Yah, the Most High over all the earth. So let's look at this and go in this in the Hebrew. Yhwh, and they will know, that they may know. Yhwh from the word yada, to know. Drop off the yod, add the tau, you get da'at. The word da'at means knowledge. Yhwh, ki ata, because ata, you are, shimka, your name, your fame. Yod hey wah hey, he who was, he will be. Lebadeka, to your own self, alone, to thine own being, to thine own self. Elyon, Most High. I'll call her audits concerning all the earth. Let's go back and look. So as Israel was told that they will be made above, or Elyon, above all the peoples of the earth, and as we see here, a daughter in Israel builded something concerning a city and a door, the upper, she built Bet Teron, the nether, and the upper Uzen She'era, naming also after herself, her name being She'era. This is concerning the tribes of Israel and the work that their children did. She built something on earth. Israel is made to be above the nations of the earth, while their daughters, in this case, are building things that are on the earth. The Most High is the one, Yah, the Most High, over all the earth. Know your place. Know before whom thou standest. Please explain if you're saying Elyon is a proper name. How do you see it in the book of 1 Chronicles 7 when it's talking about an object? How do you see it in Deuteronomy 28 verse 1 when it's talking about people in a position of a people? Somebody didn't study right. See, when you don't believe that the creator of heaven and earth reigns here alone and there's none to compare to consort with him, let's see what happens, brothers and sisters. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 8. When the Most High gave to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the children of men. He set the borders of the peoples according to the number of the children of Israel. 70 nations from Shem, Ham, and Japheth in Genesis 10. 70 souls went into Egypt with Jacob. Bahankel Elyon, Goyim, Bahafrido, B'nai Adam, Yazeb Gibulot Amim, La Mispar B'nai Yisrael. We already went over the definition of Yisrael. Do we see now what we were getting into? Brothers and sisters, Bahankel. And we want to highlight certain things, right? Remember earlier we went over that word nakal? Now we see why. Remember we went over the word parad, divide? We see why now. Remember we went over the word nazab, yatzeb, yatzib? Now we see why. These are verbs. So if you believe that Elyon is a proper name and a noun, and that Yhwh or Yahweh or Yahuwah or Yahweh is a proper noun and it's two separate entities, why didn't you go into the verbs and discuss who was doing what in this portion? It's one thing to point out a noun, a name, a person, or a thing. It's another thing to describe by nouns, which are action words, what is being done by Elyon. What is being done by Yhwh? And who is it being done to? The Goyim, or the nations that we see here, according to the number of the children of Yisrael, a people. So that's why we went over the qual stem in part. We discussed the nifal stem, as in the word parad, Genesis 10, verse 32. Let's go back here real quick, right? Genesis 10:32. Nifrad. Remember earlier we discussed this as the nifal stem, and we discussed the word parad as the qual stem. That noon from parad, nifrad. That end sound, because pay and fe or p and f in Hebrew are interchangeable, right? When you're seeing that case like that, there's a reason why that end sound is there in that case. That serves as a prefix, making it the nifal stem. We went over the word nazab. We went over the word yazib, and then coming from its roots. We even threw in the word aru for those who are interested. And yatzibeni. We went over yatzib in that case there. Then we went over these translations: Goyim, B'nai Adam, Gebulot, Amim, Mispal, Kelek, and Hebel. These words are all in Deuteronomy 28, Deuteronomy 32, verses 8 through 9, as we were asked to go into the Hebrew of it, and this is what we're doing with the time allotted. So let's look. We did that. We did this. We now go into verse 9. For the portion of the Lord is his people, Jacob the lot of his inheritance. Now, brothers and sisters, here, using the laser pointer, Ki kelek Yhwh amo. His people is his portion. And whose portion is it? It belongs to Yah. Nowhere from Deuteronomy 32, verse 8 and 9, does it say Elyon gave Yhwh anything. Please show that, because we went over giving with this portion here, right? And we're going to highlight this with a different color. Let's use green, as green as possible, right? Natan means to give. Nathan the prophet in the time of David, Natan means he gave. So a verb, Natan, can be a person's name as well. See, in Hebrew, there's no such thing as a proper name in Hebrew. It's like my daughter's name is Shalosha, which means 3. People are like, oh, it shouldn't be a number. It's a parent's decision what to name his or her child. What are you talking about? But that's neither here nor there. I remember that situation when my princess was born. I didn't ask you to help raise this child, nor give anything for the child. So to try to come, maybe I'm getting a little sidebar. Sorry about that. Oh, your daughter shouldn't be named that. Yeah, missed me on that part. But let's get back into this here with the portion and stay focused. Sorry about that. Ontan Untan ka, gave, Natan, ka. This ka at the end of this, as we pointed out that time with More Baruch when we was doing the lesson, Mishkenoteka. Mishkenoteka is a noun. Natan is a verb. When you put this ka at the matter of a verb, it means you. When you put this ka as a suffix matter with a noun, it means your. Shalom, peace. Shalom ka, your peace. Isha, wife. Ishteka, your wife. So this is something just want to point out for reference purposes. All right, let's go on. Ki kelek, yod hey wah hey. Amo. Yaakov kebel nakalato. Jacob, the lot of his inheritance. Nakala means inheritance. Also means possession. So who gave, according to some, the Most High Yah? Israel. Nobody gave the Most High the children of Israel. The Most High took the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, like he said in the book of Amos, like he said in the book of Isaiah, like he said in the book of Leviticus. He took Israel and brought them up out of Egypt, and there was no strange God with him. So I hope, brothers and sisters, that this is understood for edification purposes. We went over the portion, be it in verse 19 or 18 in your Bible, that they may know it is thou alone whose name is Yhwh, the Most High over all the earth. Elyon is not separated as Elyon, the Most High God, from Yhwh, as if Yhwh is a subordinate to Elyon. Such is not the case in the scriptures. We went over, all right, how Deuteronomy 28 has the name Elyon, pardon me, not name, word. In this case, it's an adjective, it's a descriptive, above. Elyon in this case is an adjective. Here we see, brothers and sisters, Elyon, the upper, Ha Elyon. This is something that a person is doing, talking about an object as in something being built on earth. Then we got to go to Psalms, that they may know that it is thou alone, whose name is the Lord, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, said by some is Yahweh, Yahuwah, Yahweh, Yahweh, the Most High over all the earth. So with everything you building on the Most High's creation, know that it belongs unto Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, because he created everything. Even with people trying to be perverted, a man could become a woman can become a man. The Most High already made men and women. You're not going to make anything on the Most High's earth that he has not already made. The only thing you can do, wicked man, is pervert. So let's go on, brothers and sisters, in this case here. Deuteronomy 28, verse 13, with the time allotted. And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail, and thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath. If thou shalt hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day to observe and to do them, and shall not turn aside from any of the words which I command you this day, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them. So there is none in the heavens that rules with the Most High. We know good and well, as time went on, ancient Israel worshipped idols. 2 Kings 17 tells you that. Let's see, and letting the book speak, because we're going to close out, right? We're going to read Judges. Right? Chapter 10, if we will, in part. And let's see what it says, brothers and sisters. Judges chapter 10, verse 14. Go and cry unto the gods that you have chosen. Let them deliver you in a time of your tribulation. So if you're talking about monotheism is a thought that some Jewish scribe try to make, such is not the case. We hope, brothers and sisters, it's understood. Shalom, Most High bless.